Good afternoon, Brian Anderson with the March Home, and I'm joined today by my guest, Anna Tanzia, that's how they call her in Europe, from the Camaraderie Foundation. How you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
I'm super excited that you came here. I think my very first ART session, Accelerated Resolution Therapy session, came at the expense of the Camaraderie Foundation. And that was back in 2013. And I've always been a promoter of you guys, and I really haven't known everything that you do. I tell people, well, they get, grants and scholarships towards veterans getting services in Florida, but tell me, what is the Camaraderie Foundation? What's your mission? What do you guys do?
Our mission is to support post 9/11 veterans and their family members, and that also includes active duty service members, all throughout, actually throughout the nation. We don't advertise.
Oh, wow.
And primarily our focus is here in Central Florida. 80% of our clients are coming from Central Florida. So what we do is we help heal the invisible wounds of war through our counseling services, through emotional support, as well as spiritual support. And we do that in various programs. One of the ones that you're familiar with is our counseling program, to where we help assist those service members, their family members, extended family members. So we go a little bit beyond the true definition of family. It's whoever the caregiver is. So sometimes that's an aunt, an uncle,
a brother or sister,
whoever that person is. We're also doing a lot more with children here recently. A lot of the children are experiencing secondary PTS, or mimicking the behaviors, or having PTS themselves by just seeing what's going on in the home. And they've needed help. So we've been able to help those family members as well. So that's the big thing that we do, is we help them get access to counseling where they are. They get to choose their counselor, and it's free and confidential.
How do they go about, first of all, choosing a counselor? Do you have a list of counselors? What goes on there? Say someone's living in, Wesley Chapel or New Tampa. How do they find a counselor around them that the Camaraderie Foundation supports?
What we do is we have a listing right now of 280 some odd counselors that we've already vetted. So by vetting, what I mean is that we make sure they have their insurance, their license, that they have 2 years of experience with the military, because military is a totally different animal when it comes to counseling services. And we also make sure that they have the specialty that that individual's needing, be it accelerated resolution, be it talk therapy, be it family therapy, marriage therapy, whatever it is that they need. So we make sure that they have that experience. If we don't have a counselor in that area, we use different sources, like the American Psychological Association has a listing of counselors. And we will approach those counselors and say, this is what we do. Would you like to join our association? And we pay the counselors directly. No money goes through the hands of the client.
Wow.
And we always try to give people a choice. We ask them in our intake different questions like, what kind of counselor do you want? Do you want male or female? Do you want a faith-based? Do you want service animals involved? And we try to just narrow it down as to what kind of counselor they want, so we can provide that best match.
So what veteran, I know it's post 9/11, and a lot of our military, if they've served in combat or something, they have the vet centers and things of that nature. Who are you finding typically reaches out to you guys for support?
It's all over the place. It really is. We have quite a few active duty that come to us because it's confidential, free. They're not going to have to risk their career, their
It doesn't go in their
clearance.
records.
Exactly. And some of them, they've tried the VA, they've tried the vet centers, and for one reason or the other, the counselor just wasn't a good match. And so with this, they're able to select their own counselor. And if they don't like that counselor, if they stop going to the sessions, which if they stop going, they're not going to get the help they need, we start doing some follow-up and find out what's going on. Do you need a different counselor? Is this counselor not a good match? And we try to reassess as we go along.
So I got to ask this, like, you guys do amazing work. I've seen you so many times with the Camaraderie Foundation. How did you get into the business of nonprofit work, and why?
Well, number one, I'm former Air Force. I served in the Air Force in the 80s.
Thank you for your service.
And thank you for yours. I absolutely loved what I did. I spent 13 years in corporate America, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what I did, but it just wasn't enough. I did a lot of volunteer work during those 13 years. decided at the end of it that I really wanted to get more into not-for-profit and giving back to society. So I went back and I got had my master's in business, went back and got my master's in social work.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know you were a master's in social work. That's awesome.
And then started working with adults that have intellectual disabilities.
Okay.
My daughter and her family moved down to this area, and I decided, yeah, I like Florida. I love to move around. So I came down here, and within just a few weeks, I found Camaraderie Foundation. But I knew before I got down here that I wanted to work with veterans. It was just a matter of finding the organization, and it just all fit into place. And
have you ever met Tony Ellsworth?
I sure have.
So the Veterans
Yes,
Counseling Veterans, have you seen his program? Or
yes, I have.
his
I'm
group
very
of folks?
familiar, and some of his counselors, Misty Fenton,
Yep.
is one of our counselors as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can tell you that it's cool to see so many veterans getting out there to help their brothers
Yes.
and sisters.
Absolutely.
It seems like they're, not saying anything about any other population, but it's amazing sometimes because what I've noticed is guys don't really have that conversation. Our veterans, our warriors don't really have that conversation until they find out the person they're talking to has some kind of military relation.
And that's what we find with our intake. I'm an Air Force veteran. I'm also a former spouse.
Yep.
So I've got the two buckets there. The other individual, Ruben Gonzalez, he's a retired Army.
Yep.
So whenever somebody calls, we can talk a common language. They automatically, they have a little bit of that camaraderie.
Yep.
And they're willing to share a little bit more. I had one gentleman, he got on the phone and I was asking what kind of counselor that he wanted. He said, I'd like a male. I think I opened up more to a male. We'd been on the phone for 45 minutes. And I'm thinking, okay, he opens up more to a male. But he had told me his entire story of why he needed counseling, and it's just because we had a commonality.
Yeah, yeah. So something that you said before, you've dealt a little bit with transition.
Yes.
Actually, you were there when they first started the Transition Assistance Program. I don't like giving it its acronym just because of what it is. We're coming out with a commercial, by the way, on the acronym of the Transition Assistance Program, TAP. My Network One, we're going to work with those guys and make sure we tell exactly what we feel about that name. But you were there when it first started.
Sure was. Sure was.
So what was it like utilizing it? What do you think are some of the barriers in transition that might be related to that?
Well, I think some of the initial transition assistance program was very much geared towards helping individuals write resumes and get another job. It really wasn't about all the readjustment issues that you have when you get out of the service. It really wasn't helping past that.
Yeah.
And a lot of, and I'll be really honest, a lot of what they had in the program was a little outdated in how to write resumes and how to really market yourself. And this was back in the 90s, and it was very outdated. So the chief and I that were working on the program took a look at it. We didn't like it. We redid it for the purpose of Los Angeles Air Force Base, and we were successful. We were able to help people readjust their resumes and readjust their thinking on being able to find a civilian career. So that's one of the other programs that Camaraderie does. We have a mentor leadership program that's right now in Orlando. I would love to do one here in the Tampa Bay area.
Haven't I tried to
Yes,
pull you in a
have.
few
Yes, you
times
have.
for doing that?
And I really, it's all based on funding and support.
Yep.
So once I get that funding and support here, I'm definitely going to do it. I already have at least 10 veterans that want to be a part of that program here. But what's so great about it is we're pairing these transitioning veterans with individuals who have already made the transition. These are veterans who are already successful in business. They've made the transition. We're pairing them so that they can get a jump start on how to do their network, on how to do the job search, on building that social network that you have to have in the civilian community that you might not need to have in the military.
Yeah, I think I'm still trying to learn what transition is just for myself.
Everybody is.
It's hard. It's a lot of work, and it's crazy because a lot of the transitional stress and anxiety, the symptomology is the same as post-traumatic stress.
Yep.
And when you're dealing with the things from war, and you're dealing with, I've got a house payment due, and I'm putting my kid into a new school, and we no longer have TRICARE, we're using whatever other insurance. That's a lot of stress getting out of the military, dealing with all of those factors.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we discovered is that after and it's just historical, after every single conflict, there's been a major change afterwards. After the Civil War, we had folks starting to provide aid for the people who were in combat. After World War I, we actually had hospitals starting to be built. After World War II, we had the GI Bill.
Yep.
Vietnam and Korean War afterwards, we had diagnosis of PTSD. I hope after this war, transition is the piece that we really kind of tackle and take care of.
I think with the amount of young individuals who are coming out of the service, it's going to be very, very important. And it's not just the individual, it's the whole family that's in transition. And I think that, in a lot of cases, is the piece that gets lost. You know, that's why at CAM we work with the whole families, you know, not just the individual, not just trying to save that life. We're trying to save the marriage and the family. But that's also why we do Family Fun Days.
You have a lot of activities go on. So I constantly see these emails where it's going out, you have this activity going on, this activity. What's coming up in the Camaraderie Foundation's world? What do you have going on that's coming up in our area?
The very next Family Fun Day would be August the 12th, which is a back-to-school backpack event. We partner with Operation Homefront.
Okay.
They're providing us 200 backpacks to be able to give to local children. And we're partnering also with Home Depot, and that's going to be, I open it up to any veterans, so, you know, any of the veterans that are here in this area, but it's going to be held in Orlando at the Home Depot on Alafaya. Really excited about it. Last year, it was one of my most fun events, just seeing the kids out there building projects with Home Depot and then getting their backpack and talking to the families. One of the things we find out, and the reason we do these Family Fun Days, well, number one, it's a lot of fun, but the other piece of it is it allows an opportunity for the families, as one of the families told me recently, it allowed me the opportunity to get out and relax and not get stressed over whatever was going on at home.
That's awesome.
Not have an argument, not have a misunderstanding, just an opportunity to relax. And what happens when they relax, they talk to one another and they realize, hey, you're getting better, maybe I should go into counseling.
It's all about that networking.
Absolutely.
I see it all the time at the Veterans Alternative. That's absolutely amazing that you guys do that. I got to tell you, I'm extremely thankful that you're able to be on the show. And I'm going to have to make you as a repeat offender, just because the Camaraderie Foundation's coming here, and that means the mentorship program that they're building up, and they already have running in Orlando. And right now you have it for 18 folks in Orlando?
I have 15 individuals running in the program right now.
And you give them 2 mentors each, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Tampa Bay area, when Anna starts running this over here and we get that mentorship program, the Camaraderie Foundation is something that you're going to hear a lot about. Super thankful that you came onto the show, and thank you so much for everything that you guys do. Terry and the whole team, I'm super proud of you, and I'm thankful to be inside the same arena as you guys.
Well,
so thank you for being on the show.
You do.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Stay tuned. We've got my good friend Rick Disney from Concerned Veterans for America coming up next. We'll see you after the broadcast.
Ever need a doctor after hours? Well, searching won't help. But what do? You could go to the urgent care or ER, but if only there was a better way. Introducing the MNO Plus Card. No waiting rooms, no copay, no consultation fee, giving you 24/7 access to a doctor by phone or online. It's easy to get started with affordable plans starting at $15 a month for a family of 5. For more information, visit mnoplus.com today.
Welcome to Raceface Brand Development. You might be asking, what is Raceface Brand Development? We are all about helping young drivers get noticed while creating a brand. If your branding isn't part of your strategy and you're looking for a competitive advantage in the marketplace, I encourage you to reach out to us at Raceface Brand Development and let us provide you a free consultation on how we can help further your driver's career.
81% of consumers search online before even setting foot in a store. We help you create a strong foundation for your digital reputation. We help build your online presence to improve search engine rank and make sure your business information is correct across the web. You could do all of this on your own, but why would you spend more than 300 hours a year working on this? You have a business to run. Save time and put our software to work for you.
Welcome back to this week's show of the March Home. I'm joined now by my special guest, Rick Disney. I've known Rick for, well, geez, it's been 4 years?
It's been a while.
Been a while.
Here in Florida.
So Rick, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do and where'd you come from?
Well, I work for Concerned Veterans for America. I am a senior field director for the state of Florida. We are originally from Los Angeles, California, and we're happy here in Florida fighting for veterans.
So Concerned Veterans for America was originally in California and then it moved out, or you were originally in California?
I grew up there, joined the Marines from Los Angeles, and became a police officer.
So you're an LA boy.
I am an LA boy, Los Angeles, correct. Even though my last name is Disney, sometimes that throws people off. So
There's a Disney World over there, though, isn't there?
I think there is somewhere. I think there is, and there used to be a joke. You know, why don't you just go to the front gate?
Disneyland.
Correct.
Disneyland.
Why don't you just go to the front gate and try to get us in for free? And I actually tried that one time, and they said that's fine. It'll be $150 per person. I like your ID. I understand that you're a part of the Disney family, but they don't care. It's all the same for them.
So you served in the Marine Corps.
Correct. And my dad and my grandpa. So I'm a third-generation Marine.
And then so you're from LA and your last name's Disney. I'm assuming that you played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast this last go around. Was that you?
Well,
he's a big guy. Rick Disney's a big guy.
I played the Beast, but in Marine boot camp, I was called everything from Buzz Lightyear to Mickey and Minnie. Every Disney character I've been called. So yes, I was the Beast at one point or another.
So you guys have seen one of our friends on the show, Christopher Blaine. He's now a student at Stetson University.
Correct.
And soon to be an elected official once we get him to run for the right office.
Do it, Chris.
And then we had Bill Pablo. Now, Bill was an interesting story. Him and I actually met in Afghanistan, and he kicked me. He was telling me to leave his base after I was robbing it all of everything. He's now about to be. He's getting promoted to lieutenant colonel.
He's a lieutenant colonel select, and yeah, it's kind of interesting that the group that we started with at the VFW. Now you're hosting TV shows and flying all over and fighting for veterans. Bill is a lieutenant colonel select, and we've got Chris going to law school. So it just seems like.
And you, as how many people are in your position in Florida?
Me.
For the concern, so you cover all of Florida.
Correct.
That's a pretty big role.
Correct. We have other employees that do different functions.
Yep.
We've got a media wing. We've got field directors. We've got activists, and
So
we're growing.
What is Concerned Veterans for America?
It's a veteran advocacy organization. There are many veteran service organizations. We don't file claims, but we fight for legislation for veterans. So the VA Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act, which was just signed into law 3 weeks ago at the White House, is legislation that we pushed through the House, through the Senate, and to the President's desk that he signed in front of me June 23rd. So
did I see your ugly mug up there at the White House? They let you in?
They let me in, and that was an amazing experience, walking through there, smelling the Rose Garden, walking through some of those hallways, bumping into Senator Tom Cotton, Representative Gus Bilirakis, some of the staff, or Marcus Luttrell, a lone survivor.
Wow.
I stood right next to him on the stage, and it was truly remarkable what CVA was able to do. We sent the delegation there, and we're very well represented. And it was the culmination of years of work from all of our volunteers, all of our staff, to fight for veterans.
So, Concerned Veterans for America, your mission is legislation for veterans.
Correct. We're
supporting
protecting the veterans' way of life for those who served. And
by the way, man, did you throw in a good word to Donald Trump for the Veterans Alternative? Maybe just write us $1 million check or something like that. I mean, just chump change. I'm talking about change. Did you throw anything out there like that?
I had some friends that wanted me to hand him letters and business cards, and
I just want him to. I don't want to hand him anything. I want to receive something.
You mean a government handout? Well, no. I didn't have any time. I shook his hand. It was
I got to imagine it was a great experience.
It was, especially, working with Concerned Veterans for America and knocking on all those doors and making all those phone calls with our activists. I'm a cop from LA and a Marine. I'm used to kicking in doors and serving search warrants. I'm not used to calling, or knocking gently on doors and saying, hey, are you going to vote this, election cycle? Please get out and vote. And I'm, we're now calling, on our grassroots side, we're calling veterans and doing phone banks and things like that. So that's far different from the Marines where we call for airstrikes. So it's kind of a weird transition that what we're doing now is that we're basically using military veterans and military might to protect our military veterans.
Unconventional warfare.
Correct. It's a humanitarian mission on native soil, and it's a movement of hopefully millions moving forward.
Yeah, you know, I actually was in D.C. the same time as you were when you were up there, but I was over at Walter Reed. I had some guys that made it over there, so I actually thought about reaching out to you, but it was just that, you know, I knew you would be busy if you were at the White. I'm seeing these photos of you at the White House and everything, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to reach out to Rick Disney. Let him do his thing this week.
I did bump into you at the state capitol when you were there with Hero, and that was, we were doing state legislation with AFP and with CVA, and so that was cool to see you at the state capitol. And yes, it was a quick, I don't even think I was in Washington for 24 hours, but it was a great experience. I got on the plane and flew home and just kind of took it all in. I couldn't believe what we've done in a year and a half with the organization. And so it's kind of, it's the pinnacle of my career, going back to the White House and meeting the president. I don't think that's going to happen again. So I did meet President Bush 41 when I was in the Middle East.
So wait a second, can I ask you this?
I believe you are going to ask me.
The pinnacle of your career, so is it all downhill from here then? He's done. He's got his all, folks.
I don't think so.
This is the last episode, his retirement right now.
If there's still veterans, and I'm not just saying this because I work for the organization, but if there's still veterans that are dying back home, waiting for care, if there are still, for instance, I sat on the phone yesterday for an hour and a half, and we can go into that another time about my VA experience, but it's not about me. It's about people that are in crisis, that are in a critical state where they need immediate action, immediate assistance, immediate fire, and using a military term. So yeah, that was a cool event at the White House with Concerned Veterans for America, but the fight doesn't stop there,
No, it doesn't. And let me ask you this. So the Choice Program.
Correct.
So they recently signed something to extend a Choice Program past the August 7th date.
Correct.
Right? Back in January, Senator Isaacson had an IG review go on it, and the results of implementation of the Choice Program were horrendous. I mean, it was awful.
Correct.
Well, when I say that, they surveyed 8 different hospitals, and out of those 8 hospitals, the piece that I always look at is mental health, right? So they had 52,000 folks that were eligible for the Choice Program from those 8 hospitals. And out of that 52,000 folks who couldn't get an appointment within 30 days, only 3% or 1,700 of them actually got to use the Choice Program.
The Choice Program, and in the rollout,
there wasn't enough time.
Well,
they gave them 90 days. They gave the VA 90 days for it.
So moving forward, for instance, and speaking of the Choice Program, I'm sitting on a 10-month wait list at Bay Pines. I mean, 10 months you can build a house. That is a ridiculous amount of time to give care. And I told that to the person on the phone when I spoke to the VA yesterday as a private citizen, not as Rick from CVA. But if this was a private business, you would have been out of business. You would have been broke years ago. And so for Choice, for instance, so for my injuries from the Marine Corps, I would be able to go to my normal doctor and receive care. I would not have to wait for 10 months. Now, the rollout and the movement forward with legislation, it's still in the formative process. We're still looking at what different options are out there, who's going to draft the legislation, and what that's going to mean. But coming back on the personal note is, I'm living this firsthand. It's not just that I work for this organization, but I mean 10 months, and I have a great support system in place. But for those that don't, they have dire, results. And
yeah, it can be catastrophic. I do think the VA is the best medical system in the world.
Great.
But there are places to fix.
And we're not just trying to break the VA or privatize anything like that. We're not trying to just pound that home, anti-VA, everything like that. what we are trying to do, and there's great people that work for the VA.
I honestly, I love James A. Haley. I love our VA medical. I know that there's places, but the thing that I get a real sense of is there's more people within the VA that want it to change, that want the things fixed. That's what I've seen lately.
And my grandpa, who's a Korean War vet, he lives in Idaho. He likes his hearing aids from the VA. He has some questions about what's going to happen moving forward. And like I said, there's great people there. However, when you have people dying on wait lists, you have the Phoenix scandals, you've got scandals locally in Tampa Bay that are becoming almost weekly or monthly news that, oh, these people were denied care, or they're waiting for care, or it was an extraordinary amount of time to find out that these drugs were stolen, or this. It just, we can sit here all day about it. And I think, and I hope that this VA Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act of 2017, which was signed, will give teeth to the VA Secretary, David Shulkin, to be able to fire negligent employees and supervisors and clean up the system.
Let me ask you, when it comes to legislation, what's the most important piece of legislation that we could probably have for our veterans? What do you think it is? The most important piece of legislation that's not out there right yet?
Well, like I said, we're working on choice. We're looking at the different options that are out there. And we just got to go from what just recently signed.
The accountability.
These bureaucracies have been running this way for years, decades. The second largest bureaucracy that we have is the VA. So I give it some time. I actually asked, and was at a press conference with the Secretary of the VA right after we met with the President. It was right outside the White House. And he's not going to just go out and start trying to fire people. It's just about accountability and
making sure that people can, be held to what their responsibilities are.
And that's not a lot to ask. That's not a lot to ask in any workplace that somebody's going to be held accountable.
It's a big beast, and there's been a lot of focus on it because we've never had a war like what we have right now.
Correct.
That's one major thing. So when I look at it, transition, VA communication with DOD, some of that was talked about inside the Accountability Act, am I right?
Correct.
Especially when it comes to the medical files.
Correct. Being able to transfer directly from their DOD jacket, the old ones we used to carry around is now all electronic. As a common sense thinker, that should come straight with that soldier out of the military, straight to the next line of care. And that's just common sense. But it's a huge beast.
That right there. So how long does it take for that to be implemented, that process? Do they have, you don't know what that period of time is?
I don't know. I still think that they're developing that, because something that scale, you've got to get IT involved. You've got you've got HIPAA issues. You've got very sensitive, personnel records that you're dealing with. You would think that they'd just be able to file them and send them straight over, or that the VA could read what the DOD is. That's apparently not the case.
Thank goodness for servers, because the VA and DOD is going to need them with this new act going out. Guys, I thank you so much, Rick, for being on the show.
Thank you,
I
Brian.
appreciate it.
I'm proud of you for what you're doing here.
I thank you for saying that. I'm proud of you. I'm glad that you're out there continuing to press the agendas of really our veteran population. It's about saving our lives. And quite honestly, that's what so many of us are trying to do inside the community, negotiate human life for the men and women who serve this nation selflessly. We thank you so much for tuning into the March Home. We'll see you next week with special guest Anna Hartman, and we also have, Laura Hartman, and we also have the farm that we're going to visit in Vermont. You're going to love it next week on the March Home.